I found my husband naked with his mom and then she punched me. My mother-in-law is the most toxic, violent woman I've ever met. And she hates me because I married her perfect little boy. Everything started 5 years ago. My husband and I met on Hinge. Neither of us was looking for a serious relationship, but we ended up falling in love. We started going out on dates, and every time we would go on a date, we would end up just spending a week together. Eventually, I got my dream job and I moved to New York City. I was working in fashion and making 6 figures a year. As you can imagine, my life was amazing. He asked me to be his girlfriend and we decided to do long distance. It was totally fine for the first couple of months. He was the one that decided to drive 5 hours to come see me. 2 months later, out of nowhere, he decided to propose. But the thing is, I wasn't sure if I should say yes. We hadn't been together long, and he was already offering to move to New York City with me. My life was so good in New York, I didn't know if I wanted him to come be with me. When I said I wasn't sure, his mother called me to convince me to marry him. And guess what? She managed to convince me, so I said yes. He ended up moving to my apartment in New York City 2 weeks later. That's when my personal nightmare began. My mother-in-law started coming over to our apartment every single weekend to plan the wedding. But all she cared about planning was my husband's stuff. For example, she only wanted to go try on his suits. We didn't even talk about my wedding dress. Then this woman had the audacity to plan the whole menu around his favorite foods. One day she comes up to me and says, "This is the menu for the wedding," without even asking me. No, I was not about to have corn dogs on the menu. Since we had a spare bedroom in our apartment, she started to sleep over. And she would tell my husband to sleep with her because apparently she was scared at night. At this point, she's planning the wedding. My husband is sleeping with her and my family is paying for it. After she took over planning our wedding, we finally got married. I was so busy with work that at that point, I just didn't care. For the next few years, she started coming over to our apartment at least once a month. And she would sleep over. And sometimes my husband would sleep with her. I told my husband that it was kind of weird that they slept together, and he told me that it wasn't. That they were just really close. One night I'm sleeping and I hear noises coming from the guest bedroom. I know that they're sleeping in there, so I walk over and open the door. That's when I see them fully naked. And my husband had his arm around her shoulder. Then she runs over to me and starts punching me. And then my husband tells me to get out. Then he gave me some bullshit excuse about how they're recreating childbirth. I kicked her out of the apartment, and my husband got mad at me. I no longer have a relationship with her, and I'm thinking about leaving my husband. She still comes to our apartment and just flat out ignores me. What should I do?
My husband, 33 male, told me that he's no longer attracted to me, 27 female. I'm currently pregnant with twins. I don't know what to do or if there's even anything to do. This is basically my last resort before considering divorce. We've been together for 7 years and married for 3. This is my very first, very planned, very on purpose pregnancy. I've never been with anyone besides my husband. He was my first kiss and everything else. He, on the other hand, not so much. I have a pretty high sex drive and so does he, so going 2 to 5 times a day if we have time is pretty normal for us. After I hit around the 12-week mark of my pregnancy, he stopped initiating sex or responding to my sexual advances. It hurt, but he said that he was stressed out due to things at work, so I stopped making any sexual comments for a few weeks because I didn't want to add any extra pressure to his life. A few weeks passed and I mentioned that this was the longest we've gone without sex, just trying to see where his mind was at, and he said, "Why does it matter? Are you cheating on me?" Which took me for a loop. I don't take cheating accusations lightly and feel like if you say that, you should be ready to stand on it. It's insulting to my character, demeaning, and honestly downright disgusting. I told him that and how it made me feel, and he just got quiet. I told him that I would never cheat. I'm not pathetic enough to do that. He got emotional and said that he was stressed out about money and some petty debts around $5,000. So after we finished up talking, I was thinking of a way to help him be less stressed, so I sent him $7,500 for my savings. I've been working full-time for over 10 and something years at this point and started investing a few years ago, so my savings account is comfortable. I told him that I sent it to him and he asked why, and I said, "The debts." And he said, "What debts?" And I just stared at him like, the ones you just cried in my lap about? He said something like, "Oh yeah, sorry, I'm just so off today," and goes to sit on the couch. The whole thing felt so weird, so I went out and asked him the details about his debts. After 20 minutes of back and forth, he finally admitted that he isn't stressed out about debt and isn't having any money problems. He just isn't attracted to me anymore. I asked him what about me has changed since the last time he was attracted to me, because I'm pretty sensitive about my body image my entire life. However, I have never shared those insecurities with anyone. Not even him. But even with my current body, I honestly don't think I look that bad. So far, I've literally only gained 25 to 30 pounds and I'm still working out and working full time. So now I'm almost mad because I didn't get effing pregnant on my own, and last time I checked, I wasn't the one begging for a kid for the past 2 years. I'm giving him 2 and now he's saying I'm ugly because of my belly? Pregnancy hormones and whatnot, I started crying a little, but wiping them away as fast as I could because I was more mad than sad. He said it's not me, it's the pregnancy. And he's concerned about the long-term effects to my body after seeing videos of postpartum bodies and C-section scars. Then told me it wasn't fair that I was upset because he's having a natural male reaction and I'm manipulating his feelings. He's never said anything like this before either. I asked him to explain what a natural male reaction is, and he said what makes a guy hard and what makes a guy not hard. I asked him to go stay with a friend for a night or 2 so I can have some space, and he's staying at his sister's, who called me and asked what happened because we never really fight. I don't know what to do, really. I'm exhausted from everything already, and this on top of it is just making me feel even worse. I've been crying all day and I don't have anyone to really talk to this about. He's back home now because his sister kicked him out, and after I told her what he said, she said she didn't want him in her house around her sons. We talked yesterday so I could get a better idea of what he's experiencing, and he said he has zero sexual libido towards me. But other women do excite it occasionally, but not through porn either. I'm guessing he meant random women and acquaintances he sees. He said he's not cheating and has no plans to, but he can't promise a good sex life if he isn't attracted to me. I told him that the sex isn't my concern right now, but if he loves me. He said he does and always will, but right now he only sees me as a mom and not a wife or a lover. He sees me the same way as he sees his mom, and trying to initiate grosses him out. I asked if it was just because of him being scared of hurting the babies, and he basically made a crude joke to let me know that that wasn't what he was worried about. It's just my body that turns him off. He said as long as I stay in shape, it shouldn't be a problem long term, but he's still worried about scarring and stretching. He didn't even feel bad, and he felt like I overreacted by asking him to leave for a few days. I told him how cruel it was to say to someone who's in the weakest point of their lives, and he said I was fine, I'm still working. Yeah, I don't have a choice but to. My career would be ruined otherwise. I'm thinking I'm going to just stay with him for the rest of my trimester because honestly, I need help, and once I'm closer to giving birth, I'll have to start considering divorce. He's upset because I've already moved my things into another room in the house, and I've already started separating our finances. He thinks this is something that can be worked through and wants us to go to marriage counseling. Considering how many times he poked fun at me for going to therapy before, I don't buy it. I don't have the energy to entertain it either. I'm just really disappointed at myself and my choices right now, and knowing I'll be experiencing my first times as a mom alone. And everything is about to be 10 times harder than I thought it would be. When I brought up a divorce, he didn't take it seriously at all. But I can't be with someone who's made me feel this low and disrespected.
The most disturbing patient I ever treated as a child psychologist is now training to become a surgeon. About 20 years ago, I was working as a child psychologist in a small town and had a 6-year-old patient referred to me for mandatory counseling by the school. Although I only worked with her for a few sessions, and this was years ago, she was probably the child who disturbed me the most to this day. She was originally referred for graphic pictures she drew in class of people being maimed or killed. She did not have exposure to violence or violent media at home, so these were entirely the product of her imagination. She was also somehow involved in an incident where another child was seriously hurt under unclear circumstances, which she could not be concretely tied to what happened. I found out that she had vivid fantasies of cutting living things open and at times had acted out on these fantasies on small animals. She told me freely like she was proud of it. She also tested at a college reading level at 6 years old. There were multiple times where she would say things that even took me a second to follow. That suggested both a quickness and a grasp of double meaning and a nuance that would be considered far beyond what was developmentally expected for her age. The parents were white-collar immigrants in a stable and supportive household, but there was clearly some culture barrier because they kept saying she was good because she was smart and tested high. They didn't seem to understand when I tried to explain that being good academically and being well-behaved or moral were not the same thing. Most disturbingly, I noticed they were intentionally or unintentionally teaching her masking behaviors, to conceal these impulses to get what she wanted by manipulating others rather than putting herself at risk, without actually addressing the underlying problem. It becomes very hard to intervene on children who have learned these behaviors because they keep escalating while flying under the radar until they do something they can no longer get away with as older teens or adults and the legal system comes down on them. I strongly recommended both to the parents and the school that they should pursue further and more intensive counseling for their daughter than I could provide. At the time, I had a colleague who was piloting an inpatient program for intervening earlier or younger children with extremely destructive impulses who I gave them the contact for. The parents did not seem open to this at all and abruptly moved away before we had finished our sessions. A couple of years later, I also moved to a new city, but I always wondered what happened to her, fearing she had ended up in juvenile hall or worse, prison. Very recently, I caught up with some old colleagues and learned through happenstance that she was now in training to become a surgeon at an elite East Coast institution. When I found this out, I felt an immediate chill go through me. Someone in that position of trust with that level of intelligence and training has the potential to do a lot of harm, which might not be discovered for years, if ever. Part of me, I am ashamed to admit, even felt that this was a worse outcome. I feel guilty for having these feelings at all because they do not accord with my values or training as a professional. I strongly believe that people are not at fault for their mental health problems or personality disorders. Such people are far more likely to become the victims of crimes than perpetrators, and I certainly do not believe that anyone should be punished or precluded from certain careers because of a perceived predisposition to crime, particularly as a child. I have also had to work hard to undo a lot of the biases that my professors passed on to me in graduate school decades ago that are not based in evidence, such as some people are born psychopaths, a term we no longer use, and are destined to hurt people. I want with every fiber of my being to believe that she received treatment and eventually realized a calling to help people. I want to believe that, but there's a feeling I can't quite escape. Fuck, that took forever.
These were times that I got love bombed, but I had no idea I was getting love bombed until like months after. When I first started seeing my ex, within the first 3 weeks, he asked me to be his girlfriend. My dumb ass, I was like, this is a romance. Like, he knows I'm the one, and he knows. So we're gonna just like start dating immediately. And my friends were like, don't you feel like this is getting rushed a little bit? I'm like, don't you feel like you're a little fucking jealous? Like, what do you mean? Like, he loves me. Looking back, I'm like, 3 weeks, bitch. What? Why did I think that was normal? Ex and I also got into a huge fight to the point where like I was gonna leave him. I think this was like during the 3 weeks. It was like he asked me to be his girlfriend. We get in this huge fight, and then I'm like, I'm leaving your dumbass. So after I was like, yeah, I'm leaving your dumbass, he sent me flowers. He sent me 50 roses. Immediately, I'm kind of like, but still like, no, like I'm leaving his dumbass. I read this card. And in this card, he told me he loved me. And it had only been 3 weeks. I remember reading that being like, what the fuck? But I was also kind of like, he really loves me. I remember sending that to all my friends and they're like, dude, that's so fucked up. And I was like, but what if he like really loves me? And really? All my friends were like, no, he doesn't love you. He's just saying this because he's love bombing the fuck out of you. And I was like, I don't know, because when you're in it, like, you don't realize you're being love bombed, especially me. If I have a motherfucker telling me how amazing I am 24/7, I'm like, well, he's not wrong. So, like, what's the problem here, you know? So that was actually, like, a really hard thing for me to understand was, like, there is such thing as love bombing, and not everyone is gonna think you're as amazing as you think you are. Like, they're just love bombing you. Ex also always talked about the future with me, like way too early. It'd be like month 2 and he'd be like, I want you to have my babies. And I was like, I don't even want babies. We'd be walking and there'd be this like apartment building and he's like, I'm gonna buy us a place in there one day. And I'm like, with what money? You know, like he always talked about the future and like all the things he was gonna do for me in the future. I don't even think we had a real relationship. Our text messages just consisted of him telling me I'm gorgeous and me being like, I love you, you know, like just not realizing that I was just getting fully love bombed. You're not even 6 months into dating someone and they're like, I'm gonna marry you. It's like, that's fucking weird. Like, why do you already know you're gonna like marry me? But like, I'm a hopeless romantic and I'm like, it's love at first sight. Like, it's fate kind of thing. It's like, no, bitch, you were getting love bombed. Also, like, always really wanted to meet my parents and stuff. Well, my mother. Always wanted to meet like my mother and my friends. He was like really big on that and would tell them like, I'm gonna take such good care of her. I'm gonna be amazing to her. So I don't know. It was just like hard to believe that he wouldn't do those things. At this point, you're probably like, Livy, after that relationship, you didn't get love bombed anymore, did you? Yes, the fuck I did. But I actually realized it a lot sooner at this point. I had went on one date with this man, one date. He would text me like 24/7. That's not the love bombing part. He would text me 24/7, right? And then one day, okay, we were talking about my Instagram photos. I don't know, whatever. But he sent me a screenshot of my Instagram photo with this attached. I will let you guys read it because I will probably butcher it. And I'm just like, I'm not a good reader. Like, I've just never been a good you're like, Livy, shut the fuck up. I'm trying to read this. My toxic trait is I'm like, well, he's not wrong, but like nobody should be saying that shit to you after like a first date. But in my head, I'm like, he is accurate. And he sent me like 3 of my Instagram photos like that to deep dive on. I remember reading them being like, you know what? He's not fucking wrong. But at the same time, I was like, after I'd just been love bombed by my ex, I was like, this is giving a red flag. Also asked me within like the first week of like how I saw us in a relationship together. Can I not stutter? Like, can I not fucking stutter? Anyways, he asked, he was like, could you see us in a as I stutter again. But he asked, he was like, could you see us in a relationship together? I'm like, we went on one motherfucking date. And I said that, I was like, it's been one day, like one day. I'm just so used to being love bombed because like, I also think I'm the most amazing thing that's ever like hit this planet. So when someone's saying it, I'm like, he's not fucking wrong. Like, he's not wrong. Now in my dating life, it's hard for me because I'm like, if I'm not getting love bombed, I'm like, did this motherfucker even like me? So I'm having to learn that love bomb doesn't mean someone like likes you. They're just mentally unstable. I feel like I still also don't really understand what the fuck the point is of love bombing someone. Oh, I mean, it is. They're just trying to fuck. But it's been an adjustment to like dating normal men after being love bombed. It's honestly, I'm not gonna lie, It's not as fun. But I'm realizing like healthy relationships can be a little bit boring. And it's not that it's boring. It's just that you're not used to being in like a fight or flight instinct at 24/7, or like they're love bombing you because they have narcissistic tendencies. So it's probably a good thing if I'm like a little fucking bored with the men that I'm dating currently. I feel like there is a happy medium between like love bombing and not. I just gotta find it. But listen, I do stand by the statement that like I am the most amazing thing in this world and I should be treated like that. So those are the story times of how I was love bombed.
Am I the asshole for asking for a morning off from my baby on the weekends? My wife and I have a 6-month-old baby girl. She's mostly a stay-at-home mom. She works 2.5 days a week and her sister watches the baby. I work full time and go to school 1 day a week. We've always had an arrangement where she takes care of the household duties, cooking, cleaning, and now baby care, while I happily support her monetarily. Honestly, we are both living our dream life, and my wife does an absolutely spectacular job taking care of me and our little one. On the weekends, we share baby duty. We usually make sure each of us gets our own alone time to do whatever we want. However, our girl has hit a bit of a sleep regression, waking up every 2 hours. And since my wife breastfeeds, she always takes care of the baby full time overnight. She's a light sleeper and unfortunately has insomnia, whereas I am a deep sleeper and wouldn't wake up for the baby crying anyways. Recently, my wife has been asking me to wake up with the baby both days on the weekends so she can get an extra hour of sleep. Baby wakes up around 7 a.m. I get the baby dressed and take over for that hour. But sometimes I want to be the one that gets to sleep in an extra hour. I brought this up to her and she says while she's happy to let me nap during the day, she really needs that hour because she can't nap like I can. We got into an argument about it and she said I'm being very insensitive when I know she is very exhausted and can't nap during the day, and she struggles going back to sleep every time the baby wakes up. But I'm exhausted too. Work wears me out and school days are long. And I sometimes want that hour in the morning. I don't want to spend my off time napping. I want to play video games and chill out. I've gotten mixed opinions on who is in the wrong here, or if there even is anyone in the wrong. Am I the asshole for asking us to share mornings off for sleep?
This is the truth behind my Instagram photos. So the truth behind this photo is that I was fucking my coworker. HR would be sick to know that. We were fucking and we were like kind of a thing. So the night before, he had ended things with me. And I was like genuinely devastated. I just felt heartbroken. And he ended it for like no fucking, it was just like a dumbass reason to end things. So I was like, I'm not gonna show up in the office sad, looking a little bit depressed. No, I'm gonna show up looking like a fucking whore. Like the fact that I wore a white lace corset into the office is literally insane. I was not working like a corporate job, but like I still probably should not have been wearing a white lace bodysuit into the office. Then to make matters worse, like obviously he saw me, he like tried to talk to me and I was like, Make matters worse, I made my coworker take those Instagram photos of me. We went into the side office and I was like, take these fucking photos of me. I need to look like a hot ass bitch on Instagram. And the moment I posted those Instagram photos, I got a text from him being like, can we talk? We had a really long talk and like we got back together and we were fucking again. It wasn't my intention to like get back together with him, but it was my intention to make him feel horrible about himself and realize how much of a badass, gorgeous bitch that he just lost. Gorgeous fucking photo, literally like photo of the year. But there's a lot that went into that photo. I have these things that I call like my vision. So like I'll be like, I have a vision of how I want the photo. Like we need to complete my vision. And all my friends are like, well, get your fucking vision, relax. All day I was telling my friends like, I want a bodega photo shoot. Like I want these photos in a bodega. Like it's just gonna look so cute. It's giving New York. And they're like, Livy, that's crazy. Like we're at a time crunch, all these things. I'm like, I'm not going unless we get these bodega photos. I wasn't that disrespectful, but like I had a vision. Like I was like, I got a vision. Friends were like, that's gonna be like embarrassing. I'm like, who gives a fuck? Like I don't give a fuck. It's gonna be like a fire ass Insta photo. But my friends are like used to my manic ass. So they're like, okay, Livy, like we'll get the photos. So we're in the bodega getting the photos. And I'm like, we need one together. Like, let's ask the man. My friends are like, no, that's weird. Like, don't do that. They're like, Livy, he's working. I'm like, maybe he'll do it. I go up to him. I'm like, how are you? Like, I get my bagels here every morning. Like, how are you? And he's like, I'm good. I'm like, can you just grab like 3 photos of us? Like, thank you. Like, it'll be so quick. Like, please. And he's like, yeah, I guess. I'm like, thank fucking God. To my friends, I'm like, bitches, grab something that makes it look like we're in a bodega and fucking pose. That poor man, though, just like having to take those photos of us and we're all like this in it. But he fucking killed it. Like, he should shoot for Vogue. But I was shooting with this photographer who had found me on like one of my casting websites and was like, let's shoot. And it was like in the middle of fucking nowhere. It was Brooklyn. No, but it was like a part of Brooklyn that like I had never really heard of. And I was like, whatever. So before this shoot, I had a talk with my ex-boyfriend, and he literally, it was like the talk like, what are we ever gonna get back together kind of thing. So like we ended up getting back together, but he literally like fucked my makeup off of my face. Like in these photos, I had to like Facetune smooth my face because I'm like, I have like patches on my face of like makeup missing. I also have no idea why I did this photo shoot, because the photographer was like really fucking creepy and just saying weird things to me the entire time. And I've like shot with a lot of people where it's not creepy, but he would just do this. Oh yeah, that's a good, that's such a good shot. And my ex-boyfriend was there watching the whole thing, and he was like, what the fuck, lady? I'm like, can you shut up? This is my moment, babe. It was honestly just like a really creepy shoot, but like thank God my ex-boyfriend was there, because like I just think I would have felt not safe whatsoever if he wasn't there. Like I would have just felt so uncomfortable. But hello, the photographer was making like little digs at my boyfriend the entire time, like, what do you do? Like what, or my ex-boyfriend, like, what do you do? Just kind of like, I don't know why he was like doing that, but looking back, it's like really funny that he was like kind of talking shit to him a little bit. My ex was like, why was he so fucking rude? I was like, I don't know, it's just like a part of the craft, like I don't know. This photo's with my best friend Tim. Tim is like me but in boy form, and he's like a little bit more dramatic, but those photos were taken during like New Year's Eve while Tim was hosting a party. In the middle of this party, we made one of his friends stop and take photos of us for a good 20 minutes, being like, get a better angle. Like the ball is about to drop, right? And there's 20 people in his living room, and we're like, wait, can you get one of us looking like this? Like, thank you so much. Like looking back, I'm like, we have some great fucking friends, because like that's absurd and that's just like insanity.
Story time about how my cat got me grounded. And yes, I mean my literal pet cat got me grounded. So a little background information. I was 16 and I was a freshman in high school, and my parents were extremely strict. Now, of course, there was the usual no hanging out with boys, no hanging out with anybody on the weekdays. Well, my parents took it a step further. Actually, no, they took it like 10 miles further. I got my phone taken every night at 6 o'clock. Even on the weekends, and my friends were only allowed to come over for 8 hours exactly on the weekends. And they had to have a ride to and from my house. Well, usually my friend group and I were never invited to any kind of parties, but this one girl who had just moved to our school, she was throwing a huge party and she invited everybody, not just the popular kids. So obviously my friends begged me to go. They were like, please, like we can sneak over there. Your parents go to bed early anyways. So like I said, my best friends are begging me to come out of the house. They're like, listen, like do whatever you have to come to this party. This is the first and probably only party that we will ever be invited to in our entire lives. So at this point, I start planning to sneak out of my house. So my parents usually go to sleep at around 9:30, 10 o'clock at night, and they usually wake up at 5:30 in the morning. But since this party was on a Friday, obviously my parents aren't going to wake up at that time. They'll usually wake up around like maybe 9, 10 o'clock in the morning. So this gave me a perfect amount of time to do what I needed to do, come back and not get caught. But just in case, I made sure to turn off any alarms on their phone. But I also had to make sure that I had a foolproof plan to get out of the house and get back in. Now, of course, I couldn't go through any of the doors in the house because of the stupid Ring doorbell. But there was one thing that did work in my favor. So my dad had been slowly but surely installing the window security alarms, but he hadn't made it to my room yet, so I was good to sneak out of my window. And thankfully, my window was on the first floor. So like I said, I had a foolproof plan to escape, okay? I was going to get out the window and I was going to just crawl back in and act like nothing ever happened. But there was an issue with this, okay? My dad was supposed to fix my window because I somehow broke it. I don't even know how. But anytime that I go to put my window up, it just literally falls. And not only does it fall, it locks when it falls. And obviously you can guess what will happen if it does fall. I won't be able to get back in the house and I will somehow have to get in the house without my parents knowing, which is literally impossible. So I will be grounded for the rest of my life. So I was going to put a book between the window and the windowsill, but I didn't want it falling and making a lot of noise. So I decided to put a pillow there. So I snuck out of my house at 11 o'clock and I had the best time of my life. Probably because that's the first and only time that I will ever be invited to any party. But fast forward, I go and I run to the side of the house to get into my window. And of course the pillow is missing. And I'm looking around to see where the pillow went in my room. And of course my cat is laying on it on the floor. So I tried messing with the window and then all of a sudden my parents walked in my room and saw me.
Am I wrong for purposefully breaking my girlfriend's high heels prior to my friend's wedding? My friend had his weekend last wedding and I was a groomsman while my girlfriend was in the bridal party. My friend is a man who is 5'6", so needless to say he has issues regarding his height. The rest of us groomsmen range from 5'7" to 6'2", so we are as tall, if not taller than him. He has less of an issue with this, but he did have issues with the height of the bridal party. My girlfriend is a taller gal at 5'8", and the rest of them are between his and her height. During his wedding, he decided he wanted to look a bit taller, so he brought shoe and soles that made him 2 inches taller. This was partially driven by the desire to not be shorter than any woman up in front. He also wanted for none of the bridesmaids to be in heels. He wanted them all in flats and that would keep them all shorter than him. His wife didn't necessarily agree with this, so she didn't make it a requirement in their outfits to wear flats. So he tasked the groomsmen with talking to the ladies and getting them to wear flats. All of them agreed except my girlfriend. She said she picked out heels to wear just for this day and she was going to wear them. I tried to point out that there will be other chances, but this guy only has one wedding and the nice thing to do is to just appease him. She said that she listens to the bride and the bride says she can wear heels, so she will. I tried my best to convince her to just wear some flats, but she wouldn't listen. Eventually, it got too close to the day, and while my girlfriend was practicing and one of the heels mysteriously broke, it was too close to the day to get an exact replacement, so she was stuck in flats. So, you may have guessed it, it was me. And I know it was fucked up, but I'll pay to replace it for her. She didn't find out until I told her after the wedding, and she of course was not happy. She said I was policing her outfit for my insecure friend and that she wanted to look good that day. I don't think I did anything wrong as I stopped her from ruining his wedding for him. So, am I the asshole?
I love my son beyond words. I wish I could send my daughter away. I'm conflicted. I'm on a roller coaster of emotions that is largely dependent on the situation I find myself in. If I'm spending time with my son, couldn't care less about everything and everyone else. We play, we talk, we explore the outside, we stay in, watch a movie, we share meals and snacks, we negotiate, compromise, move as one. We find flow and lose track of the time. It's fucking effortless and just feels so damn good. He is my favorite person. I happily choose to spend time with him no matter what it is that we actually end up doing. He just gets it. Sometimes I do wonder if I'm insane and I've completely made him up because he does seem too good to be true. If my daughter is involved in the activity, I have one foot out the door before anything even starts. She's just difficult. She argues, won't compromise, wants things her way, is unkind, is selfish, is rude, is never happy, always has to insert herself into conversations, always needs to propose arbitrary changes, ends up having a meltdown, needs to be pulled aside to be spoken to, ends up being asked to sit aside and relax, ends up being sent to her room where she slams the door and screams. She doesn't get it. She's a challenge that I honestly no longer am interested in facing. I've done sticker charts, treasure boxes, promises of all kinds of things. I've tried punishments and heart-to-hearts even. Her dad's talked to her, and so have other adults. It feels like she's excruciatingly slow to learn consequences. She just wants to have fun, even if it's at someone else's expense, or if no one else is. I'm tired, it's stressed me out, and is likely why my health is not where I want it to be. She's stressed every friendship and my marriage. I resent her very, very much for that. I wish that there was a return program for kids. Like, ... I tried it. I gave it my all for 3 years. I did everything the experts recommended and got nowhere. So now I'd like to stop trying. I don't want to be her mom anymore. The work is nowhere near worth it. The best I can ever hope for is an uneventful moment. I want to focus on the child I love and not this pointless struggle.
Am I wrong for letting my friends surprise propose to each other? I, 24 male, have a group of friends, and there is a couple in the group. We have all been friends since high school and kept in touch through college, so we're all still quite close. Recently, the boyfriend in the couple, 24 male, announced that he was planning to propose to his girlfriend, 25 female. Of course, we were all incredibly supportive and excited as we had watched the relationship grow from the start. However, 2 weeks later, the girlfriend told us she was going to propose to him. When we heard, we discussed, without them present of course, and decided to let them surprise each other as we thought we'd just get a sweet story to tell at the wedding. After a month of planning and nudging the two in the right direction, both decided to propose to the other by the lake at a nearby nature reserve where they shared their first kiss. They had me and another friend watch from a distance to capture photos of the moment the proposal happened. This is where things go wrong. The moment the girlfriend pulled out the ring before the boyfriend could, he went very quiet. My friend and I were watching in anticipation, thinking he was maybe just stunned. Suddenly, he turned bright red and started screaming, full on yelling and shouting. The girlfriend dropped the ring in shock and he snatched it and threw it into the lake. He went on and on about how it was his duty as a man to propose first, and how could she do this to him. He said a few other sexist things that I'm not going to repeat for the sake of my friend. We always knew he was a bit traditional in a sense, as his father is a businessman while his mother is a stay-at-home mom, and he was raised on slightly more old-fashioned values. Man equals big job and woman equals housewife. But through the whole relationship, he was very respectful and gentlemanly. So you can imagine how shocked all of us were. The boyfriend saw us and screamed at us too, saying we betrayed his trust and that we as men should know that a woman shouldn't be the one to propose. We didn't know what to say, and he threw his own ring box to the ground and stormed off. Later that day, my friend and I got publicly called out on social media by him. He called us traitors, and he left any group chats and servers we were all in together. My friends are mostly taking our sides, but I'm honestly still shocked, and we have been through thick and thin together and never would have imagined this happening. What do you guys think? Am I the asshole?